Hello, this is Amber Parrott from Morgan James's author support team, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Jessica Ptomey, the author of Home in the Church, Living an Embodied Catholic Faith. Jessica, how are you doing today?
I'm great. It's a beautiful day outside. Great weather here in Maryland. Doing good.
Love
Very
it. Love
good
it.
to meet you.
Yes, you as well. Thank you so much for being here. I want to dive in and ask you some questions about your book.
Yes.
Why did you write Home in the Church?
So when I was on my faith journey, seeking answers to some questions I had, people's stories were pretty central for my own discovery of certain answers and understanding of faith topics and issues that I was investigating. And so there were some conversion stories or faith stories, faith journey stories that were kind of page turners. I couldn't put them down. And for me, while I was investigating theological questions with my husband, because we both were kind of on the same journey together of moving from Protestant evangelical background to the Catholic Church. And while we were kind of in that process over a few years, there were certainly theological books we were reading and studying, but there were also people's stories who had similar experiences to us, who had maybe made the same leap or figured out that they wanted to make the same leap. And so reading those stories was pretty important, pretty central to helping us navigate some of the things that we were interacting with. And so for me, the thing is, narrative is really big. I mean, we're, as human beings, we're storytellers and we're story consumers. And we understand so much when we're seeking answers and we get to hear someone else's experience with the same things that we're struggling with, right? Mm-hmm. So I wrote this book for myself in a way. Sometimes when you're writing something for myself and my family, you walk through the process of what you actually thought about, what you discovered, and it kind of helps you to really solidify what it is that you know, what you've learned, and where you've come from and where you have gone and where you're going. Yeah. So for me and my family, it was there was a desire to write it, but I also had a desire to write it for other people who were in my situation, who had maybe similar life experiences to me, and who, if they picked up my book, would say, wow, I've been thinking the same questions. I've had the same concerns or issues with my faith background, and I haven't been able to resolve some of these issues. Or I love the way this is being described. This is sort of something I've been feeling too. And to have another person validate where you are and where you think you might be going, and to sort of give you a glimpse of what it looks like to get there, to take that journey and to ask those questions and see what someone else did, is super helpful. And so I wrote it because other people's stories were so helpful to me. And I hope that my story can be helpful to people in different phases of the journey. I say in my book, there's in the back, there's different people that I think might pick up this book. I mean, the person who maybe doesn't know anything, maybe has no faith background and is maybe interested in what the Catholic Church has to offer. But there also might be Catholics who haven't really engaged with their faith for a long time and really maybe didn't grow up knowing a whole lot about it. And so it was easy to kind of step away from it, but now are maybe having questions about, well, what is it really about? Maybe what I thought it was is not really what it is. And especially for this modern time that we're living in, there's so many questions that I think need good answers. And there are a lot of people out there searching for them, and reading someone else's story really helps.
Yeah, I totally agree, especially when the conversation is about, transitioning from one community to another. It's so huge to know that somebody else has that experience and that you're not alone in that. So that's great. So the subtitle of your book is Living an Embodied Faith. What does that mean? What is an embodied faith?
So the short answer is, an embodied faith is really a faith that's lived in. If you think about it from a theological perspective, we as Catholics believe that we have immortal souls, we have eternal souls, but we also are going to have eternal bodies that are resurrected. And we're not just souls, we're souls in bodies, and we live in this world and experience God in the bodies he gave us. And so our faith then is not just this detached thing from our lives and
Sure.
from our living and from what we do and what we practice, but it very much is what we are.
Mm.
A lot of famous theologians and philosophers would put it, you are what you love. I'm thinking of James K. Smith, but he's really also referencing, and Peter Kreeft, but he's also referencing Thomas Aquinas. So there's this understanding that you are what you love. You are what you practice loving. Love is an action, not a feeling or a thought, but an action of what you do. And so when you think about living an embodied Catholic faith, here's the cover of my book, and I think it illustrates something. I'll hold it up for people to see. I think the design team did a great job with the cover. What I was hoping for them to show, and I think they did a great job, was this church on earth leading us to this home in heaven.
Mm.
So this home on earth, like leading us to this home in heaven.
Yeah.
And that, what we practice loving here, what we practice, who we practice being here is preparing us for our ultimate home. And so that's, I think that's the journey that brought me, that investigation of embodied faith and what would be the purpose of faith and why should it be embodied and what's the point anyway. All of those questions led me to discover the Catholic Church is my home on earth, leading me to my home in heaven.
I love that. I love that. So you said that this book is about half about your journey and what kind of personal stories and experiences can the readers expect to hear about in the pages of your book?
Good question. So I wrote each chapter beginning with my own story on that sort of topic or that sort of niche area of Catholic faith or Catholicism. And then the second part of each chapter is kind of like helping someone else make that own journey themselves. And so, for example, some of the stories in there, the chapter that talks about asking for all the saints' intercession and prayer intercession, and what does that even mean? You'll hear about the miracle that happened to our third son, who was supposed to not make it past 20 weeks in utero, and we were really just checking, going to ultrasound checks to see when the heartbeat was going to stop, to complete turnaround, miraculous healing, and he was born full term. And is almost 5. He'll be 5 next month. So you hear about that miraculous story where I experienced a miracle in my actual body of the baby I was carrying, and experienced it through the intercession of the Blessed Mother, of so many faithful Catholics here in the world, but also saints in heaven like Saint Gerard and Mary, and I'm sure many other saints that we had asked to pray for us. So stories like that, I think, very faith-building stories where you realize if this is not all there is and there's something else, another reality that's even more real than what we experience on a daily basis, even more real than all the things we can touch and experience. All the good things that we can touch and experience are actually pointing to something that's even deeper and even more real and wonderful than that.
Sure.
You start realizing that you start seeing those things and identifying them in your life. And so I've just shared some of the stories. Another story I share in the book is how the people we met were so crucial. Faith is so many times, for good or for bad, shaped, or our perception of faith or of the church can be very easily shaped by the people that we know who profess to be Christians or profess to be Catholics.
Yeah.
And I didn't grow up knowing personally a lot of Catholics, but I tell a couple stories in the book of how some Catholic families that my husband and I met while we were on this journey of investigation were so inspirational to us and gave us a glimpse into the kind of life that we wanted to live and the kind of family life that we wanted to live and the kind of way we wanted to raise our kids and the beautiful atmosphere that we wanted to try to adopt and have in our own home. So those are a couple of the stories. I also have a chapter on suffering and some personal suffering that I've experienced within my life, myself and my family, and look at how that's redeemed. So the last chapter of the book is called Redemptive Suffering, and when we're going through suffering in this world, but with our hope being in heaven, that is a very different kind of experience than suffering without hope in this world.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I love it. Thank you so much. I love that there's a combination of you honoring your own story and your own journey, and also equipping readers to have the tools to go through their own story. So that is wonderful. So viewers at home, be sure to check out Home in the Church wherever books are sold. And Jessica, how can anyone who is watching connect with you?
Sure. The best way to connect with me is go to my website, jessicaptomey.com. And you can easily connect with me there. I blog there. I have information about my book and the podcast. My husband and I do the Catholic Reading Challenge, and as well as other things. And you can subscribe to my email newsletter, which is really the best way to keep in touch. I like to keep in touch with people by email, and I like that personal connection. So if you want to connect with me, please visit my website, jessicaptomey.com, and connect with me there.
Love it. Well, thank you so much again for joining me today, Jessica. And viewers, thank you for watching at home. And congratulations again, Jessica, on the release of your book.
Thank you, Amber.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye.